Welcome back. 8 illegal miners have been arrested in Eastern Region following a joint operation by police and military personnel. The swoop carried out on Friday targeted illegal mining activities across the Denchembo, Etiwa West, Fantiakwa and Ayenswano districts. Now, the task force commissioned by Eastern Regional Minister Rita Kosue Awate seized a variety of mining equipment and materials, including 24 excavator batteries, 16 water pumping machines, a chainsaw, 3 monitors, 5 control boards, 2 pump action rifles, 3 single barrel guns, cartridges, and an amount of 3,000 cedis in cash. Speaking to the media after the operation, the regional minister described the exercise as successful and reiterated the Mahama administration's firm stance against illegal mining, particularly in forest reserves and around water bodies.
We have been combing the Eastern region, looking for places where illegal miners are doing the wrong thing. If you go around, our waters are so bad, our environment is destroyed, peat uncovered, our forest is being destroyed, and this is what is a hazard to our nation and our region. So for the few days, our men have been on the ground, and here you are with several excavators that have been seized from them. What we are telling our people is that we need the water clean to drink. For the past days, we have been to our service providers, especially waterworks, and it is the problem that our area is facing because our waters are not being cleared because of what illegal mining is doing to our waters. We are telling the people of the East that the men are on the ground. They are not leaving. They are not leaving anytime soon until we stop the illegal mining. Until the environment is cleared, our people are on the ground. We want to appreciate the work done by the Eastern Region Command of the Police, and we also want to thank the Southern Command of Michel Camp military that are on the ground with us. And we appreciate our media people, and we appreciate everybody in Eastern Region.
Well, she has assured the public that the confiscated equipment would not be returned and that the suspect would face prosecution in accordance with the law.
And because it is the excavator that are used to destroy the environment, and anytime we leave it for the people, they are going back to the waters, they are going back into the forest. We are keeping it until the president tells us what we should do with it. We have told ourselves that we are not burning any excavator, but we make sure we seize it, and if the orders come that we can use it to work in the region, we'll use it.
Away from illegal mining, let's head to Bawku. The Inspector General of Police, COP Christian Tete Yohuno, has paid a visit to victims injured in this week's violent clashes in Bawku, located in the Upper East region. During his visit to the hospital, he sympathized with the wounded and later addressed a small group of civilians, expressing relief that no further violence had occurred since his arrival in the area. The IGP also visited police personnel stationed in the nearby district of Garu and Pusiga, where he commended their dedication and urged them to remain resilient in the face of ongoing challenges.
We have been informed that there has been absolute peace throughout the night. We want this to continue. And then the President, the Interior Minister, the Defense Minister, they are all watching and listening carefully. And then at the appropriate time, a delegation will also come to visit Bawku. All the Ghanaians want to say is that Bawku should be in peace. Bawku should come back to its past glories. For the time when everybody wants to come to Bawku, that glory should come back so that we can come back to Bawku and then enjoy the atmosphere that has been there in the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Away from the Bawku crisis, the Ghana Education Service has announced an Easter break for Form 2 students in senior high and senior high technical schools operating under the transitional track system. According to a statement from the GES, the break will begin on Thursday, 17th April and end on Monday, 21st April 2025. Heads of schools have been directed to allow students who wish to travel home for the Easter celebrations to do so. However, the service noted that the break is optional and students who choose to remain on campus must be adequately supervised. All students who travel are expected to return on Tuesday, 22nd April 2025 to resume academic work without delay. The GES has instructed regional directors to ensure this information is communicated to all affected school heads for necessary action. The Safe Child Advocacy is sounding the alarm over the worsening situation of children living on the streets of Kumasi. The organization says these children are being denied access to education, social integration and development opportunities while enduring abuse and harsh conditions in their daily struggle for survival. It warns that many are trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty with no guidance or protection. On the occasion of the International Day for Street Children, the group is calling on government and relevant agencies to show strong political will by enforcing existing child protection laws. Clinton Yeboah engaged some affected children and key stakeholders advocating for actions to combat streetism and has filed this report.
For over 2 years, Naima Iliasu, an ambitious young woman, abandoned life at home in Tamale in the northern region of Ghana to face life on her own on the streets of Kumasi. Contrary to her expectations, the quest to escape poverty was confronted with a harsh reality that only put her at risk of being abused or worse. The constant fear of sleeping in front of the open along the roadside in Edum is a persistent show of her daily struggle for basic needs. Naima says her street life was an experience of a battle of hunger and harm.
You might be influenced to do things that you're not supposed to do, which is maybe stealing, armed robbery, and prostitution. Where I was, it was a container which doesn't have any door, and you might be there and someone might come and rape you or take your things when you are not strong enough to fight. Or if you are alone there and those who have come there, they are more than two and strong enough more than you, they can do anything to you.
Naima is now promised a new future of becoming a dressmaker with support from Safe Child Advocacy's skills training intervention. However, on the streets of Kumasi, at least over 20,000 young people who are mostly girls between 8 and 18 years old reel and roam to fend for themselves. Young girls are turning mothers and sex workers. Young boys becoming armed robbers and infants put at risk of death from street life. Rehabilitation officer at Safe Child Advocacy, Erica Educhumwa Konedu, reveals that these young people who are languishing on the streets have been forced to turn breadwinners.
Children as low as 8 years will be carrying heavy loads. We engage them on the street to know their situation. These children are supposed to be the dependents, not their parents rather. So it's very disheartening looking at their situation.
In commemoration of 2025 International Day for Street Children under the theme, The Power of Participation, Safe Child Advocacy is empowering children to be active participants in decisions that affect them. The social service organization reaches out to over 100 street children daily, commemorating the occasion while raising awareness with street campaigns and stakeholder engagement. Reverend Sister Olivia Umo is admonishing the government and enforcement agencies to exhibit the political will and be intentional in action to rid the street of children.
Our vision really is a society where children enjoy safe childhood and develop their potentials to the fullest. And we believe that that society must come. We must contribute to make it happen, and everyone must also contribute to make it happen. That the government should be proactive about this issue, should be intentional, and should be really serious about it. It just takes the political will of government. Families can exploit their children as much as possible, and government does not do anything, does not enforce the laws. There's so many beautiful laws and policies that have been enacted and are all on print in this country. If any of those laws and policies and regulations were enforced, this situation would have, come to an end, or at least be minimal.
For JoyNews, my name is Clinton Yeboah.
And from Kumasi, let's head back to Accra, where the Kantamanto market's leadership has distanced itself from a recent strike by the Ghana Used Clothing Dealers Association, GUCDA, asserting that the group does not speak for the broader market community. In a strongly worded statement, the leadership clarified that GUCDA represents only a small group of importers and not the larger network of retailers, Kayae, tailors and upcyclers who make up the heart of Kantamanto's operations. They reaffirmed their long-standing partnership with the OR Foundation, commending the organization's support in areas like fire recovery, upcycling training and public health. They defended the foundation's research on textile waste, stressing that up to 40% of imported clothing is unsellable, a reality traders face daily due to overproduction from the global north. Rejecting GUCDA's claims that their strike action reflected the market's interest, the leadership insisted that the protest was not representative and undermines collaborative efforts aimed at sustainable solutions. Despite recent setbacks, including a major fire, Kantamanto remains open for business, with its leadership calling for continued support and investment in a more sustainable future. We'll take a break here on JoyNews Prime. We'll be back with more. Welcome. It's a delight to have you back. Former Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tuah has urged Parliament to ensure that any upcoming legislation targeting misinformation and disinformation does not include provisions that could suppress free speech. This comes after Communications Minister Sam George announced earlier this week that he plans to introduce a bill in Parliament to combat fake news when the House reconvenes. The proposed legislation aims to address the growing concerns around misinformation and disinformation in the country. Speaking at a dialogue on misinformation and disinformation held in Accra, Mr. Tuah acknowledged the importance of regulatory measures to curb the harmful effects of fake news, especially in an age where social media and digital platforms rapidly amplify unverified content.
The former Deputy Attorney General expressed support for laws against fake news, but raised concerns about potential censorship of free speech. He emphasized the need for broader stakeholder consultation in drafting the bill. He stressed that transparency and accountability are key to ensuring that any legislation introduced is balanced, democratic, and in line with Ghana's constitutional provisions on fundamental human rights.
I've said it's basically because of the right to free speech. It's a constitutional right, it's a fundamental right, and that it is part of our democracy that people on the other side must also express their dissent. And so if we have a law that is seeking to also put some stumbling blocks on free expression, then there's that kind of worry. But as I said, when it comes to misinformation or disinformation, we should be looking at national security vis-a-vis the subject matter in contention. If that misinformation borders on national security and has far-reaching consequences, then we must, at all costs, make sure that we crack the whip. But criminalizing speech, as you know, has been outlawed in Ghana. In fact, in 2001, the law on criminal libel was repealed. And the remnant left is what we have under Section 208. And under 208, it talks about fear and panic. And so the question, that's why I pose that question. If it's about fear and panic, then it means a lot of people may be arrested. But if we can fine-tune the law, have a standalone legislation, trying to figure out all the scenarios and come up with a very good law, I'm all for it.
Country Director of Conrad at the Noya Stiff Tank, Anna Wasserfall, urged Kenyans to double-check information they come across, especially on social media, to ensure that they are not consuming fake news.
I think the social media platforms are definitely part of the responsible infrastructure to do that. And as I also mentioned, there are efforts to also work on legislation that, for example, makes it obligatory to highlight if something has been digitally altered or if something has been made with AI. However, I don't really believe that, with the pure amount of information that we are seeing on social media and the billions of actors we are seeing on social media as individuals who are on social media, it will really be possible to solve the issue just through legislation or just by holding the platforms accountable. which is why I find it extremely important that we, as ourselves, as individuals, also take our part of the responsibility when it comes to fake news, to mis and disinformation, as in we need to make sure that we cross-check, we need to make sure that we actually validate information that we are getting, and we need to make sure that we are not becoming spreaders of mis and disinformation.
Daniel Otinewa is the SRC president of the Ghana School of Law.
For us, I mean, from a world perspective, it's actually sad. You have big people and people of huge influence on social media, usually peddling whatever information without fact-checking, and it becomes a problem because these people have influence, they have followers and other people who actually listen or follow their lead. So it's quite problematic, and we're trying to find a way to curate our media and information space to make it more authentic.
The dialogue, which brought together various stakeholders, was under the theme misinformation, democracy and security, the legal response in a digital age, and the promotion of information integrity.
And to some other stories, the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, has welcomed as a prudent move the recent directive for all state institutions to source essential goods from local manufacturers. The directive, announced by Finance Minister Dr. Ato Forson, emphasized the importance of strengthening the local production base as a foundation for national development. AGI CEO Seth Chung Akwabwa stressed that the directive must be backed by strict enforcement to ensure compliance across all government institutions. Meanwhile, the AGI has described its ongoing engagement with the government regarding recent import tariff imposed by the United States as constructive and encouraging. President of AGI Humphrey Eyim Dake noted that a dialogue has been fruitful as both parties explore practical solutions to minimize the potential impact on local industries.
The unfolding events are pretty early. There's a lot of uncertainties as we roll out. The 90-day pause gives us all a bit of break to do more engaging to see what would be the best situation going forward.
Mr. Dake, and I asked this thing about the posturing and the actions. That are you convinced by some of the actions that government is taking that there are some precedent, and not to say that who are even flying all the way to US to try and engage Donald Trump, you know, are we signaling our trade representative in Washington, D.C., our ambassador, to try and engage the Commerce Secretary and all those things? Have you heard some of all these things?
So the first step was when we engaged the Trade Minister, and the second step was that the Trade Minister and the Foreign Affairs Minister engaged the U.S. ambassador, showing a concern and engaging and seeking the next steps. Beyond that, we haven't gotten any concrete communication as to whether they are engaging the U.S. commercial sector in Washington direct. That we don't know. We know in April, there's a World Bank meeting and a spring meeting. Presumably, they might take up those engagements. So to the best of my knowledge, this is how far I know they have engaged. And then beyond that, I do not know.
We take a break here on JoyNews Prime. We'll be back with some international news. Welcome back. And now in some international news, U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has exempted smartphones and computers from reciprocal tariffs, including the 125% levies imposed on Chinese imports. U.S. Customs and Border Control published a notice late Friday explaining the goods would be excluded from Trump's 10% global tariff on most countries and the much larger Chinese import tax. The move comes after concerns from U.S. tech companies that the price of gadgets could skyrocket as many of them are made in China. The exemptions also include other electronic devices and components, including semiconductors, solar cells, and memory cards. The U.S. is a major market for iPhones, while Apple accounted for more than half of its smartphone sales last year, according to Counterpoint Research. It says as much as 80% of Apple's iPhones intended for U.S. sale are made in China, with the remaining 20% made in India. And that's it for JoyNews Prime. But if you want more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Denise Apomaije. Good evening.